As I said in the preamble, we will not be posting the full text of each of the requirements, but requirement by requirement, I will ask you to read it before commenting on it. So, when I quote a requirement and you hear this little bell, followed by this tally, it will indicate that you need to read the one or a few sentences of the standard for the requirement we're going to see. I can reassure you that the count is more than enough for you to take the standard, read it, possibly get stuck on certain terms that are sometimes formalized in a strange way, and finish reading it before the explanations in this training video continue. I will now leave you a few seconds to take the standard, to get to paragraph 4, which concerns the context of the organization. As I presented in the generalities, this paragraph sets out the requirements for adapting, designing, and understanding the safety management system in relation to the specific context of the organization concerned. It may sound rather abstract when you put it like that. You will see that what follows is quite logical. Let's start with the requirements of paragraph 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. The issues that have an influence on the management system and its results must therefore be defined, implied they are formalized. The standard does not describe what the issues are, but requires them to be identified. Very often, the issues concern major elements or factors which have an influence on the company's choices. For example, social issues, regulatory issues, economic issues, technological issues for external issues, and internal issues, those relating to personnel, infrastructures, services, etc. For example, and more precisely, in a safety management system, a challenge may exist if the company is preparing to make a major technological leap, for productivity reasons, for example. And it could be a question of controlling safety in a context of changing technical means. In a country, the major evolution or precision of a future law or regulation on safety may also represent a compliance issue for the organization. These issues are defined. It is therefore necessary to demonstrate how they have been taken into account and what actions, if any, have been decided. Now, the requirements of Section 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of workers and other interested parties. The interested parties to be considered are the workers, but there may be other interested parties such as the one mentioned in Module 3, vocabulary. For each interested party, it is therefore necessary to determine their needs and expectations, even when these needs and expectations relate to legal requirements. Once these needs and expectations have been identified, it is up to the organization to ensure that they are met. Be careful. All this is always within the framework of safety. Thus, concerning the workers, it is indeed about their safety needs and expectations. For example, the interested party of the workers has, at least, the need to be able to exercise while preserving their physical integrity. Note in passing that this is exactly the objective of the ISO 45001 standard. Therefore, the organization will implement appropriate information and training, upstream reflections on the dangerousness and risks related to certain workstations, the provision of the appropriate collective and individual protective equipment. If, during this analysis, the organization identifies shortcomings, it will therefore be necessary to plan actions to fill these shortcomings. A long enough paragraph to say something relatively simple, in fact. What is called scope of application is the formal identification of the field of activity carried out under the management system. This is what all the requirements of the standard apply to. Because, indeed, it could be that the requirements of ISO 45001 are deployed on one site and not another, or on certain services, some services, but not at all. Generally, on a geographical site, the scope of application concerns everything that is carried out because security very often has a geographical approach. It does not make much sense to say that security is provided in Zone A and Zone B, but not in Zone C. Finally, in this Chapter 4, the requirements of paragraph 4.4, S&T Management System, are presented. There are some requirements in the standard that are self-evident. This is one of them. It simply means that you must implement and improve an occupational health and safety management system. The notion of process as it is addressed here does not systematically impose to describe and formalize the processes under a relatively classical approach, as ISO 9001 recommends. However, this is very practical in order to design, share, and communicate on the management system and all its provisions.